Major ecological and socio-economic crises are perpetrated by land or soil degradation. Direct impacts of agricultural development on the environment arise from farming activities which contribute to soil erosion, salinity of land, and loss of nutrients. Land degradation threatens the livelihoods of Earth's many inhabitants, the so-called environmental refugees, including many of the world's poorest and most marginalized populations. Degradation caused by overcultivation, overgrazing, deforestation, and inefficient irrigation affects the most of the world's dry lands. We, the Group 3 from Bsed Science 3D, are here to educate you about land degradation, just a chunk of how we destroy Mother Earth. Before we start with this report, I would like you all to meet the people behind this presentation. We are the Group 3 and these are the group members. Fer Baylen, Shannen Casquio, Celine Pinuela, yours truly, Jey Eleccion, King Jean Guillermo, and Justine Joy Tronsal. To formally start with the topic, we have Miss Celine Pinuela to make us understand what land degradation really is.
So what is land degradation? So it is the deterioration or loss of the productive capacity of the soils for the present and future. Land degradation causes adverse changes in soil nutrient resources, including reduction in availability of the major nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, onset of the micronutrient deficiencies, and development of nutrient imbalances, buildup of toxicities, primarily acidification through incorrect fertilizer use. A global challenge that affects everyone through food insecurity, higher food prices, climate change, environmental hazards, and the loss of biodiversity and ecosystem services. Moreover, land degradation is happening at alarming pace, contributing to a dramatic decline in the productivity of croplands and rangelands worldwide. According to a report from the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification, food supply disruptions will become more frequent and food insecurity will rise if land degradation is not immediately reversed in favor of restoration practices such as regenerative agriculture. To quantify the land degradation cases, locally and internationally, we have Ms. Shannen Casquio.
Land degradation is probably one of the world's most pressing environmental problems, and it will worsen without rapid remedial action. Globally, about 25% of the total land area has been degraded. And according to an estimation by the Department of Agriculture, Bureau of Soil and Water Management, in 2018, about 37% of the total land area of the Philippines is in some stage of degradation. When the land is degraded, soil carbon and nitrous oxide is released into the atmosphere, making land degradation one of the most important contributors to the climate change. Scientists recently warned that 24 billion tons of fertile soil is being lost per year, largely due to unstable agriculture practices. If this trend continues, 95% of the Earth's land area will become degraded by 2050. Since soil degradation can have disastrous effects around the world, such as landslide and floods, an increase in population, desertification, and a decline in global food production, come to think that by 2050, when 95% of the Earth is degraded, almost all land areas are prone to landslide. There will be scarcity of food. Floods will be normalized. However, as early as now, almost half of the world is already experiencing this adverse effect. To tackle more on that, we have Ms. Justine Joy Tronsal.
Globally, 3.2 billion of people are affected by land degradation, especially rural communities, smallholder farmers, and the very poor. The world population is projected to increase by about 35% to 9.7 billion in 2050, with the rising demands for agricultural products including food, feed, fiber, and fuel. However, pressure on the global land resource is increasing due to the other factors as well. such as agricultural production systems, made less resilient by the loss of the biodiversity, and the natural factors such as climate variability and the extreme weather events. Climate change exacerbates variations in yields and income from agriculture, threatening the resilience of agro-ecosystem stability of food production system. Ms. Fer Baylen will analyze the situations of land degradation in the Philippines.
Land degradation in the Philippines is largely caused by the susceptibility of its soils to erosion due to the hilly and mountainous landforms in many parts of the country. The widespread clearing of forest lands in steeply sloping and rolling topography leaves the bare soil highly vulnerable to accelerated erosion of topsoil caused by heavy rainfall and consequential erosion of forced water runoff. The practice of kainin or shifting cultivation and other forms of unsuitable upland farming in the cleared forest areas further worsens the erosion problem and loss of fertile and productive topsoils. The Department of Agriculture's Bureau of Soils and Water Management identified factors or drivers that contribute to land degradation. These are land conversion, more roads and cemented areas, population pressure, illegal logging, typhoons, imbalanced fertilization of soil, and mining, among others. An article written by Perla Lena, published at Philippine News Agency in March 2021, revealed that 60% of a 4-hectare diversified farm in Barangay Cairohan, Bingawan, Iloilo goes to waste. Concepcion Connie Carillo, the owner of the farm, said that if the farmers will only rely on their production, then they can be losing or have no income at all.
The Bureau of Soils and Water Management implements the sustainable land management practices to address land degradation and mitigate effects of drought. The project would focus principally at the systemic and institutional levels and hence strengthen the enabling regulatory, institutional, and financial framework that would govern efforts to address land degradation in the Philippines. It will mainstream sustainable land management policies and programs into the development plans of LGUs through the guidance of government agencies such as Department of Agriculture, Department of Environment and Natural Resources, Department of Agrarian Reform 1, Department of Interior and Local Development and Housing, and Land Use Regulatory Board to strengthen complementation among these government institutions concerned with land degradation and ensure that the incidence and spread of land degradation in vulnerable ecosystems will be avoided and or reduced. To achieve this, the project will follow a participatory cross-sectoral approach involving all the key stakeholders in project design and implementation. The promotion of SLM measures and technologies for the adoption of vulnerable farming communities will be the focus of the field investments of the project. Through the establishment of SLM demonstration sites, farmers will be able to learn and adopt various methods of soil conservation farming and water resources conservation that will improve their crop production and income.